Welcome to another episode of the Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. My guest today, Gabriel Gaarden, with another segment of Making Sense with Gabriel. Stick around, we'll be right back. Hi, Gabriel. Back with another segment of Making Sense with Gabriel. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing great, thank you. I have a viewer who sent in the following question, and I'd like to pose it to you so you can answer it. It goes something like this. Can vegan diets lead to some nutritional deficiencies?
Wonderful question. I know there's a lot of headlines or catchy phrases out there that catch people's attention, and they can certainly do a fair bit of they can provoke anxiety or they can provoke fear in people out there, and that's a real disservice to the public. Because vegan diets, number one, have been shown to do a number of wonderful things in peer-reviewed, scientific literature, have been shown to help incredibly with diabetes and heart disease and things like that, or at least in these cases, predominantly plant-based diets, right? Sometimes they'll include a tiny little bit of dairy, maybe one serving a day. So we're talking a very small amount. Or people eating a very, very small amount of animal products, but yes, again, vegan diets are very near vegan diets have been shown to do a number of wonderful things when it comes to helping to treat and in some cases even reverse some of our leading chronic diseases like heart disease and type 2 diabetes. So it's very unfair that a lot of these negative headlines like, oh, if you eat a vegan diet, you have to worry about all these deficiencies. That does a real disservice to the public. But nonetheless, we do need to be aware that deficiencies are a potential issue. And really, we don't need to worry a lot about them if we're consuming a well-planned, varied diet that includes a lot of different sources of whole plant foods.
Now,
Yes?
now before you go on, the deficiencies really exist in both non-vegan and vegan diets. So I
Yes.
just want to
Thank you. Thank you
clarify
for
that.
pointing that out. Thank you for pointing that out. That's also wonderful to know. Yes. Uh, Vegan diets get, again, a lot of attention for deficiencies. And that just has to do a lot with marketing and fear mongering and certain people or certain companies that maybe have a certain amount of power and influence or just, followings, whether it's on social media or whatever it may be, that are getting attention for these things. But we could say the exact same thing about omnivorous diets. If you don't consume a variety, a varied, well-planned omnivorous diet, you're going to have to worry about a lot of the same deficiencies that any vegan might have to worry about. And so in either case, we want to have a varied, well-planned diet. And if we do that, we have to worry very little about deficiencies. Number one, B12, right? That's the one key nutrient that you're not going to get on a vegan diet unless you either consume fortified foods. So we're talking fortified plant-based or vegan foods that are fortified with vitamin B12. And based on, I think, the best evidence that's available, if you want to avoid taking a supplement, which myself as a registered dietitian, health professional, nutrition professional, I would not recommend somebody take that route. So I would not recommend you avoid taking a B12 supplement because it's so easy and it's so cheap and it's so safe. Just take the supplement. But if somebody wanted to avoid it, they could, in theory, do so. They would want to consume fortified foods at each meal every day. Now, why worry about having to do that, right? So we have nutritional yeast, which is fortified with B12. And there's certain other foods as well that I'm not thinking it off the top of my head. Certain other foods are going to have B12 fortification. But I think it ends up being too much work and too much worry, where you could just take a small, affordable, safe B12 supplement and be covered, right? And you could do that as little as once a week for the people that think, oh, taking supplements is a hassle. I don't want to have to deal with that. I just want to eat my food and go on with my life. Well, if you take a supplement of about 2,500 to 3,000 micrograms, some supplements, you get that in just one B12 supplement. You can get something like 2,000 or 2,500 micrograms. You could take that as little as once a week. And if you have a smaller dose or you have like a daily multivitamin, right? I take one, and again, I have no relation to the company here. I take a supplement called Complement, and it's specifically formulated for people on a very healthy, varied, whole food, plant-based diet, but it's just meant to fill in any gaps that might exist, right? Depending on where your food was sourced and those different things, it gives you a little bit of iodine, a necessary nutrient for our health that if you're not eating iodized salt in your diet, you want to make sure to get it. And it gives you the B12. It gives you another very important vitamin, which is actually a hormone that we synthesize in our body, very important for our health, vitamin D3, right? It gives you that EPA and that DHA that we discuss in another video that I recommend everybody check out on omega-3 fatty acids. It gives you EPA and DHA, and it gives you a few other things like selenium and a few other of these minerals that, depending on, what foods you're consuming and where those foods came from, it's just going to fill in the gaps of the things that you might not get enough of unless you're, really making sure to well plan every part of your diet. So, but again, B12 is the biggest one. I recommend everybody have a B12 supplement, get on it, because yes, B12 deficiency is real in both omnivores and vegans, but it's definitely of higher risk in vegan people. We should all be on a vitamin B12 supplement. And there's research to show that supplementation, I don't generally recommend supplements. It's best to get our nutrients from whole foods. But there are certain supplements like B12. I think there's some research to show that in supplement form, we actually absorb it more efficiently than we would if we were getting it, say, in a steak or in a piece of chicken, because that's where we'll generally get our B12. We store it in our flesh because we're animals, just like cows or pigs or chickens. They're going to store some B12 in their flesh. And that's why we get B12 when we eat those animal-based foods. But it's important for people to know that there's nothing special about eating cows or pigs or chickens. B12 is synthesized by microbes in the dirt, in the soil, right? And so historically, we could have eaten an entirely plant-based or vegan diet because we were drinking the natural spring water that had different, bacteria and minerals and things that were, being as part of runoff from the land. And we were eating, fruits and vegetables and tubers that we were digging up from the earth, and we weren't washing them incredibly well like we do today. So we lived in a less sanitized world. If you go back hundreds or thousands of years, we would have gotten that B12 from eating plants. We would not have had to have consumed B12 through the form of meat. But because we have a sanitized world, which is in many ways good because people don't die from cholera and other infectious diseases today, like we did hundreds or thousands of years ago. So it's very good that we have a more sanitized world today. But, one consequence of that is we don't get B12 from plants like we used to. Well, no big deal. We take it in a supplement. It's safe, it's affordable, and it's cheap.
And the animals get the B12 from plants and from the dirt. So it's not like they are
exactly,
that's anything special about them only having the B12 and that's the only way we could get it. Is that correct?
Yeah. That's correct. Yeah, they're getting it from those microbes that produce the B12 in the soil because they're actually eating food that they're out in the fields eating the grass, and in the grass they're eating a lot of dirt and bacteria that's found naturally in the soil, and that's where they're getting their B12. And who knows, for a lot of our factory farmed animals now today too, they're probably getting it through supplementation. They may, I don't know this for sure, but they certainly supplement their food, I'm sure, with certain things, antibiotics. And I'm certain they probably supplement with some vitamins and minerals as well. They may be getting their vitamin B12 through supplementation.
And that's another thing that, the animals are fed antibiotics and other chemicals, and hormones that you are also taking to your body that you don't need. So you're not doing yourself a favor by consuming animal flesh. That's just
exactly. So just in summary, I would say it's best to get our nutrients from whole plant foods, beans, lentils, chickpeas, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, mushrooms. Fungus is its own category, right? But we lump it in with vegetables usually. and then herbs and spices. Okay, we want to eat all of those foods in as much variety as possible, on a daily and weekly basis. That's the best way and most healthy way to get our nutrients. But it's a good idea to take a supplement that has a few of those things, like B12 specifically, and then for people to consider a supplement that has some D3, because vitamin D3 is something that, again, vegans and omnivores, this is everybody here. Many people in our society in today's modern age tend to have low levels or levels that are not optimal in terms of their vitamin D status. So it's a good idea to take a vitamin D3 supplement on a regular basis. And then also the omega-3s, which we talk in detail in another one of our videos that people can check out. And then there's a few other things. If you're consuming some iodized salt, you're getting plenty of iodine. But if you're on a very low salt diet, then it might be good to get a supplement with some iodine in it. Selenium is another one. Again, you can eat like one Brazil nut a day. Brazil nuts are the richest source of selenium that exists in the world. So if you love Brazil nuts, just eat, one or two of those even a week, and I think you get enough selenium. But if you don't eat any Brazil nuts, and selenium is another thing. And again, a lot of these things are going to be in a multivitamin if you just kind of have a general multivitamin that you want to take on a regular basis.
Well, thank you again, Gabriel, for sharing your knowledge with our viewers and with me. I learn all the time. I am so excited every time we're going to do a segment because I know I'm going to learn something. Till the next time, Gabriel.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for watching another episode of The Vegan Pulse. I am your host, Nancy Arenas. Follow us on Facebook, check out our blog, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You will not miss another episode. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. Live vegan.